Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mom and dad at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shapes and colors. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round. It kind of looked like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. To his surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't stop gradually as rains usually do. It ceased. The drops vanished on the way down, the clouds disappeared, and everything was dry. And the sun was shining like it had never even rained. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly. It struck him, that magic pebble must be at work. And he guessed that the magic pebble must be magic. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing, holding the pebble with his hoof, the sky turned black, there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came pouring down. "Wow, what a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want. My mom and dad, they can have anything they want. My cousins, my friends, anybody can have everything they want." He wished that the sunshine would come back in the sky, and he wished that he would get rid of a wart on his left foot. And he started home after all of those things happened. He was eager to amaze his mom and dad with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him. Well, as they were crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of some of the many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind the tall grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his mom and dad. He could have wished that the lion would turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a gnat. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and he couldn't think carefully. I wish I were a rock." He became a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and went away confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. "I thought I saw a little donkey. Maybe I'm going kind of crazy," he muttered. Well, then, there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill with a magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. "Oh, how I wish I were myself again," he thought, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work. But there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. Being helpless, he felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Somebody would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny. But what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chances of that was like 1,000,000,000 to 1 at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many stars. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home late for dinner. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning, but he didn't. Of course, Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. Both longed to have their dear son with them. "I'll never scold Sylvester again as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what he does." The next morning they went about inquiring of all the neighbors. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before. They even went to the police station. The police couldn't find him either. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but found not a scent of him. They even sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. Again, a month of searching the same places over and over, and inquiring of the same animals over and over again. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something awful must have happened, and they'd probably never see Sylvester again, although all the time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. When he was asleep, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever. He tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell, and the grass bent to the ground. Then it was winter. The wind blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they'd stored up. One day a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Then the snows melted, the earth warmed up, and the spring sun came out, and things budded. Leaves were on the trees again. Flowers showed their young faces. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Come on, dear, let's cheer up. Let's try to live and be happy again." They went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep, deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mom, Dad, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here." But can rocks talk? No. He couldn't talk. He had no voice. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan sat out the picnic food. You know, stuffed donkeys eat, alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, and so on. Hey! Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. What a fantastic pebble this is! Sylvester would have loved it for his collection. He picked up the pebble and he put it on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt something mysterious. "You know, Father, I have the strange feeling that our dear Sylvester's still alive and not very far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout. But can rocks talk? If only he had realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day. Don't you wish it too, Father?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "I wish I were myself again, I wish I were myself again," thought Sylvester. And just like that, he was. You can imagine the scene that followed. The embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it. But really, for now, what more could they wish for? They had all that they wanted. And they lived. The end.